fishbowl later. Okay? And you can vote also. So when the session is finished, we will all talk on the fishbowl format. Okay? So Jurgen will give you your speech.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Thomas. How long do you want me to talk? Because I can talk for hours. You have a schedule in mind with a number of minutes, and then the switch when you want to switch to fishbowl. Thank you, Thomas. How long do you want me to talk? 40 minutes? Okay. No, it's fine. I have the timer there, so I will talk until the time is up. Okay, good. And there's room here. I will not be projecting slides. I will just be writing some things on the flip chart. So feel free to fill up the space here if you want. But can you hear me well at the end, at the back? All right, good. So writing some things on the flip chart. So move to the front. Feel free. Now there's still time. You still have a chance before others come in. All right, awesome. Cool. We just had a very inspiring few hours hosted by Thomas with how work life is here at Just Digital. It's very inspiring. I learned a lot and a couple of things that I'm sure I will be using maybe in the next book. You never know. But for now, I will be talking about stuff that I am working on. And I thought I'm going to improvise a little bit. I thought let's get rid of the slides. I use slides so often in my presentations, and you can watch them online, the videos. So I'll just use it and answer any questions that you have, and just talk about the stuff that I've been working on recently and that I plan to be working on. By the way, I got a question several times. I have a two-week trip here in Brazil to various cities, and I got the question several times, is this the first time in Brazil? I said, hell no. I have been to, here we go, Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, Recife, Curitiba, Pantanal, Brasilia, Porto Alegre, and then there were one or two that I forgot, probably. I have seen more of Brazil than most of you, maybe. I can tell you about Brazil. Have you been in Brazil? But there's one thing that I have not learned still, and that is how to order a coffee, right? Because I usually drink coffee with milk, because I'm Dutch, I'm from Northern Europe. We drink coffee with milk, usually, like cappuccinos, cafe lattes, etc. So I tried, I once saw lots of coffees, and I saw a menu, and there was a description, and I told the lady who was taking my order, I want this one, the cappuccino, but without the chocolate and without the canela. And she said, oh, café con leche. Okay, thank you. Now I know how to order it, so I will. But you said pinchado? Pingado. Okay, interesting. All right. I'll try to remember that. All right. What have I been working on? Well, first I will tell you an introductory story. That is a useful story that I use in many talks. I once organized dinner at my house for colleagues, and I was at that time, it was about 7 years ago, I think. I was CIO, Chief Information Officer of a company in the Netherlands, and there were 200 people, and I had a spreadsheet with all the names, and I configured the spreadsheet to give me random names of people. So, for example, 2 programmers, a system administrator, account manager, project manager, the chief vice president of the pencils and paper clips, and I invited them to my home for dinner. And what I did was I found myself some easy to make recipes usually from Jamie Oliver cookbooks, because they're easy. Anyone can do that, and it tastes good. I did the groceries from the supermarket, and I prepared the kitchen, and when my colleagues arrived, I told them, and now you do the cooking. Surprise! And after they had recovered from the shock, then one of the programmers would self-organize with the project manager and prepare the main course. And the other programmer would collaborate with the account manager and do the appetizers. And the system administrator would make the desserts, for example. And he was a system administrator, so he did not allow anyone access to the chocolate, of course, without permission. And I was the manager, so I just poured everyone drinks and I watched. That's what managers should do, right? And I did that a few times, 6 times, 7 times, and it was always a success. People loved it. I had them self-organize in my kitchen and create bonds across departments, and they were happy and productive. And I got questions from the rest of the organization. When is it my turn? When is it my turn? I heard people have been cooking for you at your house. That's ridiculous. When are you going to invite me? They were waiting for it. So that was, for me, an example of what I could be doing as a manager. And a couple of things that you might recognize here, that I often try to point out in my books or at talks. I distilled it to a few principles. One is manage the system, not the people. Because they create an environment for them so they could be successful with each other. But of course that environment needs to be taken care of. So everything was ready in the kitchen, the recipes were there, etc., etc. But the cooking they had to do themselves. I did not decide who was going to do what. They self-organized. But I took care of the environment. Another thing is run experiments. Not frameworks. Many of you love frameworks. This is, I think, an IT disease. I have been a software developer and I know what frameworks are, and you install them on computers, okay? I installed the .NET framework when there was still version 2. I have no idea what version they are now. But that's what you did. You did install frameworks on computers. Not on people. People are not computers, right? But in the IT world, we have this idea that everything needs to be a framework for some reason. I don't get it. I understand toolboxes of good practices and etc. But when you start calling things framework, don't go there. I prefer running experiments because this enables learning. And the last one is focus on progress, not happiness. This is odd, because I have a company that is even called Happy Melly. Right? And our goal is to make people happier in the world, in their workplace. But the problem is you cannot make people happier. That doesn't work. You just throw a party, done. But it only works for a couple of hours, and then you have a headache. Right? So that doesn't work in the long term. To achieve happiness, you actually have to focus on other things. On working with friends and enjoying fresh air and exercising and meditation and all kinds of things that you can be doing. And as a side effect, people will be happier. So I try to apply these things all the time, these 3 principles. I'm sure you can come up with many more principles, but these 3 principles is what I recognize in many of the things that I try. And cooking at my house with colleagues, well, that was definitely an experiment. I had never done that before. I tried. seemed like a good idea. It's fun, so let's try it. And I manage the system, not the people. And also I focus not on making people happier, but on getting to know each other a bit better. That is focusing on progress, learning a bit about each other in an informal environment. And that, as a result, meant that people were a little bit happier, and they asked, hey, is it my turn? So other examples, things that I tried, personal maps. I saw some personal maps over here at the office. One thing that I realized a couple of years ago was that people are spreading out more and more across the world. I work on a distributed team, with one in Russia, one in Finland, one in the US, one in Brazil here, two in Spain. They're all over. And this is becoming quite normal in the 21st century. While in agile software development, many people say you have to work with co-located teams. People have to be together in the same room. I say, well, yeah, that is true, that helps, but it is not a solution for many companies in the world. You need something else to have the same effect. And what you're trying to achieve with people in the same room is great communication, great collaboration, understanding of each other. So then I came up with personal maps. It's just people drawing mind maps of themselves or each other and then asking questions about it. There's like hobbies, education, family, goals in life, your values, etc., etc. Again, it was an experiment. Never done it before, but I thought, hey, seems like a good idea. Let's try this. Well, it turns out my team loves it. We now, with every new team member that we hire, my team wants to see their personal map. They ask, create a personal map and we're going to discuss it. We're going to ask questions about your personal map. Because the rule is you're not allowed to present your map, right? That is boring. And people just go on and on and on about how interesting they are. That is boring. It is more useful to have people ask questions about each other. Because what you say about yourself, what you choose to say about yourself is often not what people want to hear. Like, I did this project, or I had that achievement, whatever. What people want to hear is, what are the names of your children? How old are they? They're very different kinds of questions. Again, that was an experiment. And I focused on progress, getting to know each other better again. Other examples, let's see, the delegation board. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. We see an example here. 7 levels, 1, 2, 3, until 7, with different words on them. Number 1 is tell. I tell people what the decision is, like vacation days. We discussed vacation days just 1 or 2 hours ago. Who decides who goes on vacation when? Well, level 1 on the delegation level would be like a dictatorship. You go on vacation in July until the 17th, and you go on vacation the last weeks of July until the first week of August, and then you go on vacation. That makes no sense. Most organizations don't work like that, right? Level 2 is trying to convince people of your decision. Level 3 is they can tell me what they want as a manager, but I make the decision. Like, they can tell me when they want to go on vacation, but I decide. I say yes or no, that's allowed or that's not allowed. Level 4 is consensus. We agree together. That is like the Dutch approach. We talk and talk and talk until somebody dies of exhaustion. And then the survivor makes the decision. And level 5 is the opposite of 3. Instead of me consulting the team, asking what the team wants, the team asks the manager what he wants. But the team makes the decision. But at least I, as the manager, can give people suggestions. Like, I think it is best if you go on vacation in July and you go on vacation in August, or the other way around. Not in the same month, please, but figure it out. I give them a strong suggestion. Level 6 is you decide whatever you want, but you have to inform me afterwards, because it makes sense that I am informed. And level 7 is like anarchy. Whatever, You come to the office and every day will be a surprise who was there and who was not. Right? That would be anarchy, level 7. It is possible in some key decision areas. So the idea is that you have a number of key decision areas there, vertically, and then you make a selection like, okay, vacation days, what do we decide? Is it necessary to have permission from management? In that case, it's level 3. If it's not, then it's level 5 maybe. This was an experiment for me again. I tried something and it seemed to work. It seemed to work in terms of clarifying the boundaries for people. Because often with self-organizing teams, the problem is people don't know what kind of decisions they can make for themselves, right? They just, no idea. And I often use the metaphor of the horse, because the word management is actually from the Italian word maneggiare, which means handling horses or leading horses. It's interesting. An organization is like a horse. It can be a fast horse that needs to run at the races, or it can be a big horse that needs to pull carts full of vegetables or tourists or something. Maybe it's like My Little Pony, a startup or something. It could be. But they're all organizations, right? There's all organizations. And they're horses, like it's metaphorically speaking. But a fully self-organizing horse, that would be like a wild horse. And I'm not going to sit on a wild horse and slap its ass and say, yeah, and then hope and pray that it runs in the right direction. Right? That would be 100% self-organized horse, right? So we don't go there with teams, we don't go there with organizations. There need to be some rules somewhere. There need to be a fence at some point, and that is what the delegation board does. You explain to the horse, to the organization or the team, look, this is your area, you can do what you want until here. Behind that fence is another horse or whatever. So I find that useful. And my team finds it useful. We also have a delegation board, me and my team. We updated it just 4 months ago, and we added a couple of things, and the last things we added were expenses, for example. How much can people spend? How much can they spend? Well, I don't want to ask me for every 10 euros that they want to spend. That was so annoying. But I don't want them to spend 1,000 euros without me knowing about it. So apparently there is a switch at some point. So we made a rule. Anything below 500 euros per month, per person is okay. Just tell me afterwards. Level 6. Ultimately, I'm the business owner, so it would be nice if I know where the money went. Right? If it's more than 500 euros, level 4, we have to agree. So that basically means I can say no if I disagree. But also means that the team can say no if they think I'm spending the money on something that makes no sense. And what I like about delegation levels is that it is a symmetrical model, right? It is, you delegate in 2 directions. Because not only the manager delegates to the team, but the team also delegates to the manager. Right? It is a respectful relationship. Because many teams, they don't want to make all kinds of decisions for themselves. We have managers for a reason. To take care of some things, to take care of the environment. Manage the environment, manage the system, not the people. Again, this was an experiment that worked. And it focuses on progress, because a nice side effect of this board, when you visualize it like that, there's an urge to have those tick marks go in the left direction, just like a task board. In Scrum and Kanban, you can discuss, okay, what is needed to make vacation days move from 3 to 4, or maybe even from 4 to 5. What do we need to prove as a team that we are mature enough to make such decisions, right? You can discuss that with the manager. But you can start without changing anything and just clarifying. What are the boundaries? Where are the boundaries now? Where are the fences? Because people often don't even know where the fences are. More ideas. So these are things I've done in the past. Let me move forward and to what we're currently working on. One thing that I'm not very sure about is, but it sometimes seems to work, sometimes not, is dealing with values, corporate values. I'm sure you all know the traditional value lists, like Scrum has a value list. Like, what is it? Respect, openness. Does anyone know the 5 values of Scrum? Courage. Commitment. Focus is the other one. Right. Yeah. I don't know them by head. If I cannot even remember 3 things when I go to the supermarket. Seriously. So I can definitely not remember a bullet-pointed list of 5 items. Just impossible. And the problem is, just offering people a list of values is not enough. I sometimes show people a screenshot of a website that says, our values are responsibility and sustainability. And then I ask them, from which website did I take this picture? Well, it's the website from Volkswagen. We all know probably what Volkswagen did last year, right? If you've seen the news, they cheated on their cars, on how they measured the exhaust, the emissions of into the environment. And but the website says, we care about the environment. Sustainability and responsibility. It's probably German humor or something like that. I don't know. So there's something missing here. Someone has a nice list of bullet points. Actually, there's just 2 bullet points: sustainability and responsibility. They already could not remember those 2, apparently, because it's not what they did. At Volkswagen, they had a very different purpose. Does anyone know what was the purpose of Volkswagen?
Cars for the people.
Sorry?
Cars for the people.
Cars for the people.
Yes,
well,
that's
that's the slogan. Yes.
No,
but,
it's the name Volkswagen, right?
oh yeah. It's in the name. Sure. But you know what was the goal for the employees? What was communicated to the people in the company? What they found was really important.
Profits.
Sorry?
Profits.
Profits? Yeah. Anyone? Be bigger than Toyota.
Nice.
That was it.
Simple, right?
That was important. It's simple. I can remember it. It's easier to remember than sustainability and responsibility. Bigger than Toyota. Because they wanted to be the biggest car manufacturer in the world. And they were, for a few weeks. Until, as the English say so beautifully, the shit hit the fan. I can just imagine it happening. I'm glad I was not in the boardroom where the shit hit the fan. So something was missing there. Something was missing. And that is something that Agile people would recognize. It's a feedback cycle. It's a feedback cycle that connects what people say with what they do. We say we stand for responsibility and accountability or sustainability. Is that also what we're doing? You need to have a practice for that, to connect these two. Some call it the espoused values versus the enacted values, with difficult English words. So, I think it's important to have a practice for that, to connect values with actual behavior. What kind of practice? Well, I know some companies create annual culture books, for example. Zappos is a famous one. You can download Zappos culture book. It looks beautiful. Well designed, photos and stories, etc. It's very nice, and like they update it once per year, I believe. I was once at a company in Poland, very inspiring. They created a video. I loved it. The employees went around with a video camera and they just interviewed each other. How do you like working for this company? Tell us some stories of what makes you happy here. So they actually captured stories of people who were working together. I read in one book by Frédéric Laloux, Reinventing Organizations. I'm sure some of you have heard of that one before. that some companies have annual values days, where they simply get together to talk about purpose and values. Is the stuff that we're doing, is that actually what we say is on the website? It makes sense to have a feedback cycle. So I have been experimenting with my team, and what we have done is a value stories channel on Slack. So we use Slack as a communication tool because we're distributed, and we share stories of stuff that happens, and it's usually stories that we have difficulty making decisions about, because that is what defines a company, decision making. And decision making is often influenced by values. What is it that we find important? Well, for example, the last story I just checked this afternoon, what is the last story that we shared? That was someone, a person that we like very much, used our illustrations that for our Management 3.0 materials on her business cards. And those business cards did not have our logo on it, or whatever. It had her logo on it, of her company. And she proudly tweeted her business cards online, even with hashtag Happy Melly, so that we saw it as well. Because she was open about it. She didn't know that she was doing something that we maybe didn't like. Because she was using our copyrighted illustrations. I pay someone for those illustrations for her own business cards without even asking. So I said to my team, guys, how do you feel about this? And the other said, what the fuck? And someone said, the illustrator said, conflicted. It's like, it's a compliment when someone uses your stuff, but it's not nice when they don't ask. So yeah, I was also conflicted, and we like her. And she did it with the best intentions. She actually notified us on Twitter. But we said, hey, you didn't ask permission, and this is copyrighted stuff, and we actually reserve this for Management 3.0 material, so how do you feel about removing it? But we first had a discussion about that. That is a typical value stories. And we find it difficult, such decisions, because we like the person. But if we let her get away with that, then other people see that this is apparently acceptable to use our illustrations, and other people are going to do it too, people that we don't know. And then they can say, yeah, but she does it as well, right? It's a snowball effect. So as I said, sometimes this practice works, sometimes it doesn't, because there can be like 2 months go by and no story is shared at the channel, and think, that channel is not working anymore. And then suddenly there's a lively discussion about something that people find important. Oh, okay, the channel is working again. Still not sure, but at least it's an experiment. It's an experiment that we are running. And it's managing the system. I'm not telling people what the value should be, but I am enabling them. I created a value stories channel. I enable them to share those stories. So I'm managing the system, trying to make sure that we are sharing stories without them explicitly telling them which stories or which values that they should talk about. It also makes sense a bit for this one, focusing on progress, I think. So that's something we do. Another thing, we talked about compensation. People find that interesting. How do we pay people? So what we do at Happy Melly, I have a team of now 11 people, and they are in different parts of the world. And the first thing that is important to know is I don't employ anyone. That's an experiment. I don't even have contracts with them. That's an experiment as well. Because we're trying to figure out, is it possible to have people be like halfway between a freelancer and an employee? So we have like the benefit of both. So the people that I work with, they decide for themselves how much they want to work every month. We set what we call a commitment level. We say, well, this month our commitment level is 2. That means 40% of the month I will be working on Happy Melly team. We have our own way of working with that. So we don't have contracts, as I said. That means that any person at any moment could decide, okay, I've had it, I'm going somewhere else. That means that we have to keep each other's trust all the time. I have to make sure that those people enjoy working with me and vice versa. Otherwise, you say, okay, well, screw you, I'm going somewhere else. So I think that it's better to have this with this small number of people than having contracts that says, my contract says that you should be here tomorrow at 9. Why should I define that in a contract? I don't have a contract with my friends or my family members either, but we do have certain expectations from each other. It is an experiment that is working out well. So no contracts, we set commitment levels, and then we discussed, okay, how much do we pay each other? That was a big discussion in the beginning. What is our salary formula, basically? We discussed salary formulas earlier today. Well, what we did was, first we discussed, is there a difference between jobs? Like one person is doing software development, clearly back-end software development, another person front-end development, another person marketing, etc. So there are clear differences, but there's also overlap. Because sometimes the developer also writes a blog post, or sometimes the marketer also helps with others. So it is not like there's clear boundaries. So we found it very hard to define, okay, well, this kind of job should earn more than the other kind of job. And then the team quickly decided, okay, well, let's just make it even for everyone. Get rid of the whole discussion. They thought, okay, that's fair. And then we discussed, but what about where people live? Because in Finland, the cost of living is significantly higher than in Spain, right? A cup of coffee in Finland could be 4 or 5 euros, and in Spain it is 2 euros. So that makes quite a difference. So should we pay Hanu, who lives in Helsinki, 2 times more than Jennifer, who lives in Barcelona? But then Sergey said, yes, but what about people traveling? I travel all the time. Do I take the cost of living of the city that I happen to be in? Like I earn more or less money now because I'm in Sao Paulo or Brazil for 2 weeks? Or we're not going to talk about cost of living because they said, we just pay everyone a good amount of money, and with that amount of money you can have a decent living in San Francisco. With the same amount of money you can live like a king in Detroit. But then you live in Detroit. Who wants to live there? So you choose. Live like a king in Detroit or live like a normal person in San Francisco. And then I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Nowadays, the place where you want to live is more like a personal choice. As with my team members, they choose to go to Bali for 2 months. That's fine. So we got rid of that discussion as well. So our salary formula became very simple. It is now basically only the commitment level that we agree to. If you agree to 2, then it is 40% of the standard. If you agree to 3, then it is 60% of the standard. And people can adapt depending on their other projects that they're working on. That is one part, and then we have, on top of that, we have what we call a merit money system. Because I also want to pay people for performance. But what is performance? How do you measure that? I have absolutely no idea. So we do something else. We have a bonus system called that we use the tool Bonusly, bonus.ly. And every month we have 100 points. Each person every month has 100 points at the start of the month, and then throughout the month we have to get rid of those points, giving it away to other people. Like yesterday, I gave 10 points to Andy, who lives in the United States, because he is trying to arrange a meeting with me and the photographer of the famous picture of Melly Sham, who hates her job. That is a famous picture in my hometown in Rotterdam. And I really want to meet that person. He said, maybe I can arrange a meeting for you. That would be so awesome. So, thank you, 10 points. We give each other points all the time. I have to, because by the end of the month, they're gone. I cannot give points. The start of next month, we start with 100 again. The nice thing about this tool, by the way, bonusly, is that every time you give points, you can attach with a hashtag a value like kindness or curiosity or initiative. In this case, I gave Andy points for initiative. The things that we value as a company. So always the points are somehow connected to a value. And so throughout the month, we accumulate points that we receive from others. That is our performance. The better we do for our team members, the more points we get. At the same time, I, as the business owner, every month set aside some money, depending on how well we are doing. Right? I look at the numbers and I say, okay, well, this month it's this amount. That's like a bonus pot that grows. So we have credits that are growing, and we have bonus money that is growing. Then at some point we have to decide who gets how much. That will be easy. We have credits per person, we have bonus money, so it's just calculating the ratio. People will get different amounts depending on the credits that they receive. The moment we do it is as follows. At the start of the month, the first meeting of the month, one person throws a dice. Can be anyone. Person throws a dice, and when he or she throws a 6, we pay out the bonus money. No 6, no bonus. That's it. That's simple. So it is completely unpredictable when people get the bonus money. Why do we do it like that? Well, with traditional bonus systems, when you promise that there will be a bonus in December, people will start thinking about that bonus and calculating it for their expenses. And they probably will already have spent the money before they even received it. Right? And then very often the bonus is less than they expected, and then they have a problem. Oh my God, it's only 100 reais, but I just bought a new car. Yes, that's a problem. So the effect that you have with this traditional bonus system is you only demotivate people, because usually it is less than they had expected. Not on my team. They never know when they're going to be paid the bonus money. It could take a year. It could happen next month. You don't know. You'll just have to wait until someone throws a 6. My team loves it. They think they have their own little Las Vegas casino every month. Seriously. Oh, it's bonus time, it's bonus time. And the funny thing is, one of our team members, sadly, she has left us last month, going somewhere else. Louise, she had to be the one always who throws the dice, because she has the lucky hand, says the team. She has, because in 11 months, she threw a 6 3 times. That is significantly above a statistical average, right? So we were considering renting her out to people in casinos. So anyway, so that is how we do how we do the money part. We can go into Q&A in a few minutes. I see we have 40 minutes. I will tell you one last thing that I'm working on right now. I'm going to draw it. Something that is on my mind for maybe the next book that I want to share with you. We experimented with teams. Like, we have 2 brands that we are responsible for. Management 3.0, which is licensing of courseware. Maybe 2/3 of the team is working on that, or the people that we have. And then Happy Melly, which is membership payments of people around the world. And then we said, okay, well, easy enough. Agile says, thou shalt have teams. So we make a Management 3.0 team and a Happy Melly team. Didn't work. Didn't work. Why? Because most of our people were working on both. Hannu does front-end development of both the websites. Sergey does back-end development of both websites. Right? There were only a few who really focused on one or the other, but most of us were involved somehow in both. And we said, well, this is not working. We can't make such a clear distinction between two. And I also thought it was like a bit disrespectful, because people like Hannu said, well, but which team am I really on? Like, I feel like one week I'm on this team and another week I'm on another team. It doesn't make much sense. So I've been reading a lot of books about social networks, about complexity science again the last couple of months. And what I ran into was very fascinating, I think, which is that historically we are very used to putting people in boxes. Right? This is a very human thing to do. Like in the past, fortunately, this has changed. In the past, white people could marry white people, right? Black people should marry black people. If you were from this part, if you were rich, you married a rich person. If you're poor, you have to marry a poor person. This categorization in society was pretty normal in the past. But fortunately, that is changing. I am very happy to say that among my friends, most are actually in an interracial relationship, which is awesome. It is, diversity is growing in the world. So people don't want to be put in boxes anymore. Like, this is your box and this is your box. And this is also something that I read several times in the social network theory books. Like, it is not like you can cut everyone up in boxes anymore. It is like the boxes that you want to belong to are your personal choice, depending on context. Like, for some part of the week, I want to hang out with my Happy Melly team, but another part of the week I want to hang out with the science fiction and fantasy book readers, which is another community I want to be part of. Or another part of the week I am a runner and I want to hang out with other runners and talk about running and running shoes and running gear, whatever. And another part of the week I'm with my family and kids, etc. So that is, we are context switching all the time. It is a personal decision, and this is how social networks work. So there are no hard lines anymore. So instead of this, where you have an organization that consists of boxes, and you have people here, 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 and by the way, some methods or frameworks suggest that you have to do something else, like create circles or whatever, but then still people could be dedicated to the same boxes or circles. Doesn't matter to me. I think what we're moving towards is areas of interest. Let's call it this. I call them focus areas. And for example, we have a focus area of Management 3.0, me and my colleagues. But we also have a focus area of, let's say, content management. Content, that's creating stuff on the blog, etc. But we also have a focus area that is licensing, that is a business model. Licensing. These are what traditionally people might have called teams, but I don't want the boxing going on anymore. We're not living in the previous century where we say you're in this box or you're in that box. No, we have people here, and people should flock. They should go to the focus areas that make most sense for them. Right? So this person could say, well, I mostly hang out with the people who are interested in Management 3.0, but every now and then I find it interesting to also have a look over there. And this person says, well, sometimes I join that meeting, but mostly I feel responsible for everything that happens here, etc. If you translate to traditional organizations, why should someone be either in marketing or in system administration? Why should it not be possible for someone who does usually system administration to also say, well, when they talk about marketing, I actually know quite a lot about marketing. So sometimes I would like to join their meetings. Why not? Because maybe that person has very interesting insights into marketing. So I think this is the way forward, because this is how society works. Every time throughout the day we decide which communities do we want to hang out with. You are now assembling around the Management 3.0 meetup, but you go back home to families or whatever. That's your personal choice, right? Of course, someone needs to feel responsible for managing this, right? That means that one of these people here should say, well, I not only go here, I actually organize this. I am like the leader of this. Oh, by the way, I also attend meetings over there because they're interesting, but I'm the leader here. Well, this is what we're doing now at Happy Melly. I have defined together with the others the focus areas, and every focus area has a leader. Someone who has responsibility for making it work, organizing a task board, if he thinks that's necessary, whatever. Just making sure that this works. And he can organize meetings, and everyone who wants to come to that meeting is invited. They can come to the meeting to talk about this stuff, like you are invited here. I think this is the way forward in the 21st century. More of this in order to deal with the scaling issue. Scaling is all the rage these days. Everyone talks about how do we scale, and they cannot figure it out. Is unable to solve that problem, I think, because they keep doing this. Putting people in boxes. It's impossible. Yeah. And then they get decisions like, okay, but is geographical boxes, is that more important than functional boxes, or are the functional boxes underneath the geographical boxes, right? Do we have a global marketing department which is cut up in South America and North America, or do we have global regions and then we cut up South America in marketing and other functional areas? They can't solve it. And they go back and forth and they keep reorganizing things because they don't know what is the optimum. They keep switching these around, I think, because they keep putting people in boxes. So I think you're going to hear me talk about that more in the future, because this is how social networks work, basically. We have people with interests, and then they flock around an interest. And you have a leader there who says, I'm going to take charge of that area and make things work with a task board or whatever. All right, that's it. I'm 5 minutes over time, but I'm sure you don't mind. Any Thank you. Never say any questions at the end of a talk, I learned. I'm doing it anyway. Any questions about this? Who has a comment or question?
Working well is kind of unboxing, let's say. Some examples of companies where they managed to reach this level of, let's say, unboxing people.
Yeah, where this is working well?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to find such examples, because I've just, in the last couple of months, realized this, that I think this is the way forward after reading science books, etc. And I see a lot of frameworks again, not naming any names, but some of them don't look very safe to me. And they keep putting people in boxes, right? And that's not going to work, because people always want, oh, which box is mine? And I don't feel like I fit in that box. Well, maybe 60% of my time, but 40% of my time I don't feel like I'm in that box. I'm sure there are organizations who are more organic, network-minded like this, but I would love to encounter them and interview them and write stories about them. Yeah. If you know some of them, let me know.
I think that I've been reading regarding fast framework for scale agility. And one of the creators that have many members, and it seems like that's something like that.
Yeah?
It's like a product owner shows up a user story that wants to be made, and the team itself, it can be 150 people, organize themselves, we want to do this task. And they split and go to a meeting room and start working on that. But that is almost organic.
Mm-hmm.
Like the teams keep changing every time.
Right.
A new user story or a series of user stories
Yeah.
being given to
Right.
the team itself.
Yes.
The bigger team.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at what is really happening in an organization, you often already see something of that, right? I recognize in what you describe, because here you have your Scrum teams, right? But people also they feel like almost dedicated to a team, but every now and then they want to hang out with other people in a guild, a business guild or whatever the name you use. And other people are not dedicated to one team, like Scrum Masters or the product owners. They hang out with multiple teams and they do a bit of switching there. There's nothing wrong there, as long as they manage their productivity well. There's nothing wrong with project switching. Task switching, bad idea. But project switching is actually good. There's a very important difference there. And people often mistake those two. But Scrum traditionally only focuses on optimizing the productivity for one team. Well, obviously, if you say people should be dedicated to the team and focus only on this work, obviously productivity will go up. That is like, duh, logically. But they completely ignore the effects on the rest of the system, like no knowledge transfer between teams. For innovation, you need outside ideas. I just discussed the book Where Good Ideas Come From. Who was it? Yeah, over there. That's exactly the point that Stephen Johnson made in his book. You have to get ideas from other sources. That means you have to hang out with other people part of your time. That is maybe like an 80-20 rule. That's fine. 80% you spend on one team, 20% of your time, go somewhere else. Hang out with another team, go out of the office, read books, whatever. That is what business guilds are for, right? So in practice, something like that is already happening. But then people still want to draw boxes. I think get rid of the boxes. Draw focus areas and let people flock to where they think they can be most productive. And then things will scale. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah. If your team has this floating commitment time,
Yeah.
and they are able to change between different subjects,
Yes.
how do you, I don't know, how do you manage your expectation about things being done, about in some time? I don't know how to say it, but you expect something to be done in some date, and people aren't working on. How do you manage this feeling, at least?
The feeling of progress, that they're being productive.
Yeah.
We are experimenting with measurements. We tried OKRs as Thomas has talked about. For us, it didn't really work, but we're still figuring out what better alternatives are applicable to the way we work. But we do measure stuff. We measure stuff all the time. Every week I spend half an hour collecting data about the things that we achieve. So we know that we are making progress in some areas and in other areas we don't. And those metrics are available for everyone. So that is at least something that we do. It is indeed difficult to see what is the actual contribution of a person in terms of the productivity or the success of the organization, and is it worth paying the money? It's very hard to decide. But I see that there are very enthusiastic and very busy and doing a lot of things together, and the organization is doing well. So should I complain? And they love hanging out with each other. So yeah, I don't see any big problems to be solved. I'm sure we could be more productive, and I'm figuring out ways of having more focus with perhaps alternatives to OKRs that do work in our context. But we say often enough, whenever we have a meeting, that things are not working, that things could be better. Like this morning, we had a Management 3.0 meeting with Vorans in Slovenia, is the leader of this focus area. I showed up again. That was the first time since 2 months, I think. So I'm like here every now and then. I pop up, and we discussed that the board looked like a total mess. It's a huge number of cards, and it was completely unclear what kind of board it was. Is it showing workflow? Is it showing ideas? What the hell is it showing? Nobody was understood anymore. So we're quite open and critical, and we discuss these things. No problems there. And Florence promised that he's going to clean up his crap this week. So we'll see it happening hopefully soon.
And why it's a bad idea to switch tasks? You just said it's a good idea to switch projects, but not tasks.
Well, task switching is what the brain cannot do. Like you cannot drive your car and text at the same time, right? When you have to pay attention. That only works when you drive a route where you have driven hundreds of times before, and you can do it like almost with your eyes closed. Then there's not a real problem. But that is what the brain cannot do, that task switching. I cannot make notes when someone is talking and listen to that person talking at the same time. It's either writing or listening. So the human brain is bad at that. That is task switching. Project switching is different. Like project switching is cutting up your workday in allocated, in focused amounts of time, and I say, okay, well, for 1 hour I'm writing a blog post. Not checking Facebook, not checking email, etc., because that hurts your productivity. I'm just writing a blog post. When the blog post is done, switch to something else. I could be having a meeting with my team. When that is done, I do something else. For half an hour, I answer all my emails. Inbox 0, done. Next hour, I do something else. That is project switching. You switch between things, but every time you have focus on this, and then on that, and then on that. And you go back to a next blog post next day, for example. That is how I can be a speaker and a writer and a business manager all at the same time. I just project switch all the time. But I don't task switch, because that would make me unproductive. I try not to look at Facebook when I'm writing a blog post, right? Facebook off.
Something like not multitasking.
Yeah. The multitasking is what I mean. Yes. So the task switching that happens in multitasking, but multi-projecting, as I called it, nothing wrong. Yeah, that is, you actually need multi-projecting for creativity, innovation, etc. They proved, for example, that artists were more creative and more innovative when part of their time they created other kinds of art. Like when you're a painter, and every now and then you should also try sculpting or something, or drawing, because it makes your painting better. That's project switching. Yeah.
Think about how documents could work with it.
Sorry, how?
Tuchman's model.
Tuchman's model.
Norming, starting.
Oh, okay. Great question. I always forget the order. Forming, norming, performing, something like that. Yeah. Good question. I think that, let me put this here. I think that if you have a focus area like this, and one person here is like, let's say he is the leader and he's definitely like 90% of his time involved here. And then someone else is perhaps involved here, and that person is like 60% of the time. And that person is perhaps 10% of the time. So someone else joins every now and then, but there are a couple of people who are there most of the time. I think this model applies to people who are there most of the time, because they need to do most of the work with each other. And they should be able to deal with the fact that every now and then there's something else hanging out with them, but it's not like that person is a core member. Right? And even if you go to the traditional way, we apply the forming, norming, performing model to these teams, but these teams, the members here, they do other stuff too. They hang out with their guilds every now and then. They have vacations. So suddenly one of your team members is not there. There are some teams have team rotating ship, for example, where that's a good practice in organization, where every now and then this person goes and works there for a month or two, and that person goes to work there for a month or something, just to exchange experiences. Doesn't seem to hurt them much. So there is already, it's already not the case that this is like a fixed block where everyone is working 100% of the time. Let's be realists. So I think this just makes it more clear that it's allowed to not have dedicated people to focus areas 100% of the time, because reality, it's never the case anyways. And the model works for those people who are here most of the time. But a significant part of their attention will be here, because they are the ones carrying this focus area, basically. But that's what I think. All right, thank you. Oh, one last question.
I find it very interesting, this social model of structure. I myself am a big fan of teams for the power of social connections towards a goal. But I find it very interesting, and I got me questioning, how about when you have some skill
Influencing them, or just recognize that nobody's interested. Just stop trying. I don't want to force people to do work, because then they're going to leave when I force them. So my people only do work that they like doing. If there's something that nobody likes doing, we're going to find someone else and hire someone for it, specifically. And then you only have motivated, happy people that way, because nobody's forced to do something they don't like. Sometimes we pick up a job that needs to be doing, but hey, everyone needs to clean the kitchen every now and then or something. So we don't force anyone anywhere. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.